Everybody else is
They
here.
were real happy about me.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's see. I'll lead us in an invocation since I didn't have time to ask anyone to help. If you'll bow your head with me. Father, thank you so much for allowing these business people to have time to provide the services they do to the city in serving with the Economic Improvement Corporation. Let us ever be mindful of you in the decisions that we make, for it's in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, item number 1 on the agenda is the Visitors and Citizens Forum. Any citizen with business not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the Economic Improvement Corporation. No deliberation or action can be taken on these items because the Open Meetings Act requires an item be posted on the agenda 72 hours before the meeting. Visitors are asked to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. I don't have any visitor cards. Visitors, anyone like to approach? I don't see anyone. Move on to item number 2, which is the approval of the minutes from the November 18th meeting, 2019. And I will be looking for a motion in a second.
I move that we approve the minutes from November 18th.
I second.
Have a motion in a second. Any discussion on the minutes or changes to be made? I hear none. We have a motion in a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, raise your right hand. And that is approved unanimously. On to item 3.3a, which is our monthly financials for November of 2019. Ms. Dozier?
Good afternoon. All right, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the financials for the month ended November 30th. And you should have this in front of you, and this is what was in your packet. Probably it might be easier to see a hard copy version, but wanted the audience to be able to look at what we were looking at as well. So from a statement of activities, income statement perspective is what we're looking at here. And the second column over is the current period, so that's the month of November. So there wasn't a lot of activity, just real routine stuff in November, but sales tax came in at $301,000, and that was 8.8% higher than November of the previous year. So real significant increase there, and we saw especially strong increases in both retail and food services, which are our 2 largest categories, so that's always good to see. On the expense side, we just had regular monthly payments for the administrative fee and then also debt service. And following, I'm going to move on to the cash flow statement now. So following that activity, EIC ended the month of November with a cash balance of $3.2 million. So looking ahead at what's coming up, during the month of December, EIC will be transferring money for both the Schreiner River Trail project and also the Olympic Drive project. Those are both actively underway with construction contracts. We also, EA and I also met with Mary Rohr from the airport to get some idea about timing on some of the airport projects. And so right now I have $150,000 being transferred for one of the initial phases of that airport project happening in December. I spoke with her today, and she said it may be the beginning of January, so that may happen beginning of January instead of end of December. But anyway, that's a little different than what you saw last time, because last time we had $250,000 going to the airport all at one time. It looks like that's going to be split into 2 payments, a $150,000 payment and then a $100,000 payment a little bit later. So that means the low balance that we've been looking at previously was estimated to be $1.2 million. Now it looks like $1.3 million because that airport payment is being split up into 2 payments. But overall, healthy cash balance all the way across there. And we still have the EIC funds invested in Tex Pool, currently earning 1.85%, 185 basis points. That's the same rate that we were at last month. So rates have dipped, but they seem to be stabilizing right now. Looking at just a few key indicators here, you can see the committed projects and the remaining funding left on those. And you can also see the sales tax analysis on a month-to-month basis there. We did receive December sales tax on Friday. Happy to report it came in at $297,000, so above our budget there. there, so we're still looking strong on sales tax. And then the last thing I wanted to update y'all on is the refunding that we've been talking about. So we got pricing for the refunding on December 3rd. And this is for our 2011A issuance that paid for River Trail, or a portion of it. So we originally issued 3.5 million, and we paid that down. So there's 2.4 million that is eligible to be refinanced, and that's called refunding. So we refunded 2.4 million, and anyway, we got a better interest rate than what we previously had. We were previously at 2.7%, which is a good interest rate, but with the new terms, we're down to a true interest cost of just over 2%, 2.03%. So it's going to save us overall $98,000 over the remaining life of the loan. So the life of the loan won't be extended any. It'll still go through 2031. But that just means each year the debt service that EIC supports is going to be a little bit less. So a savings of $98,000 over those years. And it'll be anywhere from $5,000 to $9,000 a year in savings for the EIC debt service. We have closing scheduled for December 18th, Wednesday of this week. So good news, always good to save $98,000. So happy to report that. And that's all that I have. Are there any questions?
So on the refunding,
Uh-huh.
gross savings of 98,187. What is the cost associated with that? And I'm assuming since it's gross, that means that the refunding cost would be coming out of that. So what are we really absolutely netting?
Yeah, I think that gross is saying gross as opposed to present value. So the costs actually have already been deducted from
So
that.
it's the true interest cost.
Yes.
It includes the
cost for the
cost.
financial advisor and the cost for the bond counsel and the underwriters. All that's been taken out. So it's a net of 98,000. But when you look at it on a present value basis, it's the 89,996. So that's the difference between those two numbers there. But yes, those costs have been taken out.
All right. And go ahead.
No, you finish.
I'm probably going to ask a question about the Schreiner University River Trail Extension
Okay.
total project, but that may come up with EA.
Okay.
While we're on the funding then, real quick. So we refunded 2.435 million. The par amount issued was 2.285.
Correct.
And so
That's $150,000 difference there. And this gets into what Mr. Early was just talking about. So our net savings is $98,000, but you see that $150,000 difference there. And so that's where the fees come in to get us down to the $98,000.
So what's the par amount then? I mean, the par amount to me would be like the principal amount, but that's not the principal amount.
Yes, the par amount is the face value amount. That's the amount that you have to repay. So we sold 2.285 at a premium. And so the money that we actually got from selling 2.285 was enough to repay the 2.4 million that was still owed on the other debt. Does that make sense?
Okay, so he sold at a premium.
Yes.
Okay.
And that brings and that true interest cost factors in the premium there to get us down to that 2.0386.
So what was the coupon rate then?
The coupon, let's see if I have that with me. I don't have the coupon rate with me. I believe that the coupon rate varies from year to year, but I can send y'all an email with
Different tranches have a different rate.
But I'll follow up with the email
Maybe
and give you
something
the
less than
coupon
that.
rate.
Be something less than 203 then.
It would be more than the 203, but then it comes down to the 203 because we sold at a premium.
Oh.
It's factored in.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll follow up with the information on the coupon rate.
No, I'm just kind of curious how that all that works.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, it's interesting. Like, I like talking about it, but I know some people, like, you know, it sounds like wah, 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 wah if I start talking about
Like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yes, it does. I agree. Yeah. So yeah, 98,000 isn't huge in terms of, millions of dollars in debt, but still 98,000 is
Oh, it's-
No, it's good.
98,000.
Good.
And
So did we
yeah.
do this in conjunction with some other bonds that the city has? Or
No,
was just
it
this
was only this issuance. This was the only issuance that was callable at this time. And so we have two more issuances that are callable in the spring that are EIC funded issuances. The true interest cost on those that we got just when we issued was like, I think it's 2.17, so it's pretty low. So interest rates are gonna have to be really low to make it worthwhile to refund that.
Which projects are those that are coming?
They're River Trail
River
also.
Trail.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very
Alright.
good. Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All right, moving on to item 3B, which is the projects update. Mr. Hoppy?
Good afternoon. I'm going to run through this laundry list of 10, 11 projects as quickly as I can. River Trail Extension to Schreiner University continue to progress very well. Contractors mobilized on site. I think I mentioned last time they had completed most of the clearing work. So still on schedule right now to be done hopefully in the April timeframe. Tennis center improvements, again, a project that's progressing very well. Hopefully we'll have that facility open in the early spring timeframe. Aquatics feasibility study is wrapping up. We are scheduling meetings with various philanthropic entities to explore funding opportunity interest. Olympic Drive infrastructure extension project. Happy to report that we just had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor. And that will be kicking off very soon. So we're excited to have that one underway. Downtown streetscape parking garage, those construction documents are progressing. Hoping to have those out on the street here in the next couple of weeks. And then hopefully getting some quality bids over the next 4 to 6 weeks after that's issued. Legion Lift Station is wrapping up. We should have that operational within the next couple months. They're going through a testing period right now. Aerial pipe bridge, happy to let you guys know that we have just recently finalized the application for the second component of the grant. It's an additional $500,000. That's in addition to the $1 million that we've already successfully received from the Texas Water Development Board in Disaster Recovery Fund. So going out there and getting an additional $500,000 to look at putting that utility extension up and over the Loop 534.
How long will it take for you'll know about that grant?
Could be another 6 months or more. State
You won't
usually
start
doesn't.
anything- You won't start anything to that grant.
No, and we're still working through
Really?
the engineering process.
They're saying 3 to 4 months before we would find out whether or not it's approved, but we're looking at 6 months before it
Before you
actually
got the
be
money.
funded.
Right.
And so you're still trying to determine if somebody's liable for some of the damage that was caused?
That is also occurring in the background, yes. Fortunately, we have a funding source to put that on the bridge regardless of that.
So you're not gonna do anything to start that project until after this grant is either,
We've already started the design engineering work, and once we have that, hopefully we'll have funding in hand and we'll be able to go let a project.
so you might be able to start actually working before the next 6 months.
I don't know that the construction will start before then, but the design engineering work certainly is well underway.
The chances of hooking that up back into River Hill are kind of long range still, probably.
River Hill's already connected.
It's connected, okay.
Yes, sir. Counter Lodge Hobby Lobby, we reported to you, I think last time, that they are intending to start up late December, early January timeframe. That continues to be a little bit fluid. We're checking with them what the latest was. We had heard a rumor that it might be January. The latest I had heard was December 26th, so we're confirming that. I know the community is very anxious for them to open their doors. Thompson Spur 98 infrastructure extension, continuing to make great progress at the landing project and the offsite infrastructure work, which the EIC helped catalyze. Arcadia Theater, my understanding is they have let a construction contract, and that project is moving forward. Kerrville Airport improvements. As you know, as you recall, you approved those at your last meeting. We have been meeting and working very closely with Ms. Mary Rohr, the airport manager there, in beginning the process of developing the demolition project for the Horseshoe Building. And then separately from that, as we mentioned, not an EIC component, but she's working very hard on box hangers and the other T-hanger components as well. Be happy to answer your questions you may have.
So I just had one about the River Trail extension to Schreiner University.
Yes, sir.
Looks like in December, we will fund the second half of the total project. We're the only funding source for that, is that correct?
There's a partial funding from Schreiner University.
So, any chance, and the only reason I ask this is every other River Trail project we've done had an overage to it. Is there any chance that happens here? Are we pretty solid on not having to go over budget?
Well, we budgeted at 1.5, and we're hoping to come in at that element. That does have a contingency piece to it. We're hoping not to have to go into that contingency, but we're pretty early in the construction process. So so far so good.
Okay, April's still your time frame.
We're pushing hard.
Good.
And so we advanced the full million, or going to before year end, and they're really not that far along yet. So the reason to go ahead and put that money out now is what, I guess?
So as we've gone through before, we moved those from the EIC to the actual project fund, and then we pay those draws as they're called in, and any interest that's accrued then is refunded back to the EIC. So we have those funds ready and available within our project funding to go ahead and make that.
What's been drawn down so far against this first 750?
Engineering, as well as the initial
much?
parts of the construction. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Might be good to kind of review the drawdowns each month, so it'd be kind of nice to know how much they've drawn half or what they've drawn.
Sure.
I'd also make a recommendation that we remove the word Econo-Lodge from Hobby Lobby.
Well, as you recall, the
I know.
incentive from the EIC was related to the demolition of the Econo Lodge, so that's why we listed
I
that as that
I
project.
understand.
But, yeah, we're hoping really soon we can take,
That part's over.
we're hoping we can take that one off entirely because they'll be open and I won't have to
There you go.
update you on it.
That's a better deal.
Very
So
soon.
some of these projects, potential funding that we haven't approved then, I mean, so some of these are maybe gonna come up for more, or they're just, I mean,
All these are active projects that you have funded.
that we have funded, but nothing there that we would need to do more funding for. These are all, pretty much all agreed to and done with as far as that goes.
At this time, yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Well, aquatics feasibility study, that was a study.
That's right.
Yes.
The aquatic center hasn't been,
Yeah.
the design and all that is
Yeah, at this point,
kinda
it's still in
there.
that public dialogue process.
Right, and then the downtown streetscapes.
It's in the process, and actually, you guys funded both the feasibility study as well as the component for, well, we'll see where we end up on bids.
Right. So those do have a little bit of something left.
So we have some commitments that we're looking at there then. That's what I was looking for.
But nothing committed to.
Well, you committed construction dollars at this point, but we don't have, we'll see where the bids come in at. But yes, sir, you have
Okay, so
committed to it.
anyway, we don't have them on our list as a commitment.
That's why I was saying that we didn't
Which
have
one?
those.
Well,
No, downtown streetscape parking garage is
Value.
listed.
It has a value.
It's an active agreement, yes, sir.
There's a value
yeah,
in that.
but
It's not showing in the funding.
it's not showing
cycle.
up on the
On the funding
analysis,
side.
yeah.
On that, project analysis, I didn't list that because it's been completely funded, so it was $350,000 is what EIC agreed, and, EIC has funded that,
It's all done. Funding's already
Okay.
completed.
so there's.
On
no
which one's that?
commitments.
It's done.
Downtown streetscapes.
So we funded all we're gonna fund
Right.
on that. Okay, so all these are, then we funded everything
This
that
is
we've done
what's
so
be
far.
left funded so far in the
Okay.
coming year.
Just, okay.
All right. Any other questions with regard to projects?
Very good,
Thank you, EA.
thank you.
All right, moving on to item 3C, which is the monthly update from Kerr Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Koenig?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Gil's working on some incentives from the state right now, so I'll be handling it in conjunction with Teresa. 2019 has been a great year for the EDC. We have a great team in place, and we're continuing to build our pipeline of opportunities. I'd like to brief you all on 3 projects that we're currently working, and then Teresa will take up a discussion on where we're at with our new website and our new marketing effort through that vehicle. We've had quite a bit of activity on the project we've been calling Skymaster. It's an advanced manufacturing aerospace aeronautical sector. We've briefed you all on this for the last 3 or 4 months. I have had a lot of meetings very recently with owners and principal officers of the company, and I think we're really narrowing down very well in terms of what their needs are, what our abilities are, and where that's going. I think that's still probably a 90 to 120 day close, mostly because we're waiting to see what kind of contribution we can get from the state to support this effort and this recruitment effort to bring this company from out of state here. So very, very positive on that side, and we feel very, very, very good about that. We've added a new project to the pipeline this month. We're calling it Tin Roof. It's a metal fabrication company. It'll be their 4th location within Texas, about 20 primary jobs, and they're in the metal building fabrication business. There's a retail component as well as a turnkey building component to that, and they're currently looking at a number of sites within the Kerrville area. Very, very positive. They're very bullish on Kerrville. They fit right into that template that we talked about in terms of size, shape, and desire to move here on a personal level, and that looks very good. We're continuing to dialogue with a project we've been calling Oasis. This is a construction materials or construction manufacturing business surrounding tiny homes or manufactured homes. They're continuing to work to get their funding together, so I think that this will probably slip out in time for a while, but it's still a very, very viable project and one that I think will be very relevant, not only, as I've said before, to the local workforce implications, but also some supply chain implications for local vendors. And so those 3 all looking very good. We have another number of them that we're currently tracking, but those 3 keeping us pretty busy right now. And that's one of the reasons Gil's not here. We are working to bring state funding to these opportunities, be a workforce development or direct subsidy or others, and that'll definitely take some of the burden off of us in terms of our need to provide funds towards the recruitment of these companies. So with that, I'll take your questions before I hand it over to Teresa to give you all an update on where we're at with our great website.
Well, the Tin Roof, is it a franchise or a corporate addition?
It's an additional location within a corporate structure. And I'll note it was very interesting. We had a meeting with them. They flew into our airport. We had a meeting at the boardroom at the airport, and they flew out. So they use the airport. That's one of the things I really like. So kudos again to those who make that airport work and make it such a great asset to our community in terms of the economic development impact it has. Any further questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us. So last week around Wednesday, KEDC was privileged enough to launch our brand new website. Feel free to check it out, www.kerredc.com. Part of the platform that I am most enthusiastic about is our integration with GIS planning, which will allow us to work with all of our commercial real estate entities in putting out all of the commercial listings in our area. We can both categorize those based on their industrial use, their commercial use, their retail components, but we can also put in several different layers to categorize them based on whether or not they're under current development or whether they're for future development. And this is geared specifically towards the site selectors that are either state, regional, or even at national levels that we are looking to attract and bring in to develop with these properties. So I have reached out to the commercial real estate agents in the area to have their help and making sure that those sites are up to date, that I have all of the information that is pertinent. And I'll be working on a daily effort to work with them to keep that up to date. So it has a lot of really wonderful information. Each one of those pieces of properties, as you integrate or as you work through those components and those properties and you click on them, you'll be able to pull up lots of great information, great statistics information that I love, which is demographic information, workforce information, all of our top employers. So a lot of great information, not only that I need, that makes my life easier, but a lot of information that we get called about on a regular basis from businesses or even local residents in the area. So we begin to be the source of that information. So.
Good. One question about that, not to go into the nitty-gritty details of it, but how does a realtor or a broker that is listing properties like that, how do they get their listings there? Do they have to initiate that, or how does that work?
So they're sending that information to me, and then I am populating our website with that information.
Good, so they somewhat initiate that.
Yes, and they also then initiate whether or not that information needs to be taken down if that piece of property or that site has sold or is no longer for lease. Then I'm also, again, working with them to make sure that that information is staying up to date.
Excellent.
How about site selectors? How will they just access it on the web is what they will do. But are you gonna try to contact them directly at all and let them know that you have this data available, or how?
There is a marketing component to GIS planning. Once we are sure that we have all of the information in there and that it all is absolutely 100% correct, meaning we have correct sewer line sizes and all of that pertinent information, that we can then begin to market that to site selectors if we choose to do that. Right now, it's kind of contained within itself within our website. The other crucial piece of that information is that if we do receive a lead generation, say from the state governor's office, I can then very quickly take that. There's a component to that on the back end where that allows me to populate a proposal, so an RFI, and be able to send that out in just really within a matter of minutes.
You can customize it real quickly for
Very
that
quickly.
particular request.
Wonderful. Really impressive.
That's great.
What's going on with BRE right now?
So last week I had the opportunity to go out and visit several businesses. So I had put together a little cookie delivery and visited several of the businesses that have been on my list to go and say hello. Had a wonderful visit with Fox Tank. Had a great almost hour and a half visit, seeing their business from start to finish, all the way from beginning of manufacturing their tanks all the way to loading it up and sending it off on its way to their customers. And they're doing a fantastic job. They are increasing business every day. They've already added approximately another 20 employees. So they're looking to do some further expansion in 2020. Also last week, I learned of a petroleum equipment service company that I've been driving past for, hate to admit it, but almost 10 years. That's been pretty low key in our community. And at first I said, I'm not gonna call you out if you want to keep me, if you want to keep being low key. But he said, no, they don't market themselves, but they're right here in our own backyard. They produce, service the gas tank pumps. So for Valero, Mini Mart, 7-Eleven, and even HEB. They're headquartered here in Kerrville, but they service all through the state of Texas, which is, I think, a pretty significant for us here in Kerrville. And they were just, in my mind, not very well known in the community. So, it's been a wonderful thing for me to be able to get out and get to know the businesses that are here and begin to talk to them and see how they can be more involved in the community and how we can do that for them as well.
Good. Any other questions?
I could just make one note. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this, but Hobby Lobby has joined the Chamber of Commerce, and they are scheduled their ribbon cutting for the 30th of December. Let y'all know if that changes, but that's current. I drove by there today, and there's 2 semi-trucks there. It looks like full of inventory, so that's a good sign. So that all looks good, and I neglected to give any update on Mooney. We are continuing to get interest from the press, and we're continuing to stick to our talking points, but we don't have a whole lot of additional information there, apart from just, folks who are continuing to be interested. The folks that were furloughed are back to work, and we don't know what that prognosis looks like. But we're continuing to track that and beyond that as best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. All right, looks like we have a couple, 2 or 3 items slated for executive session. That's moving into item 4A. And so I would entertain a motion to move into executive session under section 551.087.
Also move.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. We are in executive session. 4:30.
Nobody wins.
All right, it is 5:01. We'll move back into regular session. Nothing really to discuss from executive session in this session. So, any items for future agendas?
Just a reminder that you all did vote to move your January meeting to the 13th because of the conflict with Martin Luther King Day on the 21st. Or the 21st.
Right. And I'll just report I will not be here for that meeting, so just to let you know. Any announcements? All right, then I will adjourn this meeting. It is 5:02. Thank you for your time.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.